We want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges here. We can't be having these conversations where it's apples to oranges because then we're just going in circles.
Not equal.
It was so confusing for me as a consumer. You're kind of just going off of the box and labels and trying to make a best guess. And then what you end up with is a bunch of products in your drawer that is a waste of money and resources. So if you have one thing to take away from today's session, it's use your sunscreen daily.
This is Skin Talks, the podcast where we go deeper than skin, products, and trends and explore the conversations that actually matter in health, beauty, wellness, and confidence.
We're a mother-daughter duo and the founders of Boutique Skin Envie. After years inside the industry, we've learned that health is never just about what you use. It's about everything you digest, how you think, how you live, what you eat, how you move, what you put on your skin, and how you feel in your own body.
If you're looking for insight, honesty, and a fresh perspective on the future of health, beauty, and wellness, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Skin Talks podcast by Boutique Skin Envie, hosted by Beate and Natascha.
There are moments in our careers when we realize the path we started on was just the beginning. Our guest today began her journey in the world of science, deep in the lab, surrounded by molecules, data, and the quiet pursuit of discovery. She spent years studying biophysics, genomics, and drug development, searching for answers that could change lives. What she didn't expect was that the same scientific curiosity would one day lead her to the world of aesthetics, a place where chemistry meets confidence and research meets real people. Today, she bridges the two worlds, science and beauty. At SkinCeuticals and Skin Better Science, part of L'Oreal's professional skincare division, she uses her background in research to help professionals understand what's truly behind the formulations and technologies shaping the future of skincare. But beyond that, she carries a message, one that speaks to every scientist, student, and curious mind who's ever felt stuck in their path, that science doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning. This is a conversation about curiosity and transformation and what happens when evidence meets empathy. Please welcome Jennifer Chiang. So what were you working on in biophysics, genomics, and pharma?
Well, okay, so I'd love to take this, way back. This is kind of a long circuitous story of actually how I got here today. But in my journey throughout my sort of education, I was really, interested in exploring science. I was like, this is it, this is how we understand the world around us, right? So I was really interested in having a career in science, really going into academia, maybe going into pharma. And so I started my studies at McGill in biochemistry, because that was, to me, a bridge between everything that I needed to know in terms of the chemistry of biology, right? So that's where that started. And then at the point where I was, about to graduate, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I thought, okay, I was looking at graduate programs across Canada. So I like to tell people that I did a little bit of university hopping. So I've actually either studied or worked in one of the top three, universities across the country. So I started at McGill, and then I did my graduate program at U of T in Toronto in medical biophysics. And the story of medical biophysics is at that point in time, I was really interested in understanding, science and biology. And part of that story is proteins, because proteins are the machinery to the cell. It kind of dictates how well things are working within your cell. And it also is the root of a lot of causes of disease. If proteins aren't working correctly, then it, gives rise to disease conditions, okay? And so I was like, okay, well, proteins, what do we need to know about how they function? We need to know what they look like, actually, because a lot of times when drugs are designed, you need to know how the drug fits with that 3D structure of protein. And so I was like, okay, well, what's one of the ways that, you can determine protein structure? It's actually through a gold standard methodology called protein crystallography. Okay, I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah. Because you're going to lose us if you do that. But anyways, go on.
But protein crystallography is what led me to medical biophysics, because that was the department at the University of Toronto that really encompassed, all of the energy-based imaging devices, including X-rays. So I was among, scientists that were working on CT scans, MRIs, optimizing ultrasound, radio frequencies, and looking at all of those technologies and how, they could create better imaging platforms and also serve to, make new discoveries on how those technologies could be utilized in different ways. So that's that parcel of my story. And then after that, protein crystallography is really interesting because once you get in there, you look around and you discover, wow, like people are in this program for a really long time. So it takes a long time to complete, in general, a PhD in protein crystallography. And so I think part of my story is also, sharing with people that sometimes it's okay to change your mind. You could be committed to an end goal, but in the moment, you're also allowed to decide like, hey, you know what? I want to do something else, and maybe I don't want to spend the next decade in graduate school. And so, there I exited the program, graduated with my master's in medical biophysics, still was exposed to a lot of that, scientific knowledge and really exposed to the people, I think, that really was embodied kind of the spirit of science. From there, then I was like, okay, what's the next new innovative thing? So I think if there's a through thread here, it's that, remain curious. And, there's always value in chasing innovation, but in a way that is like measured, and you're really committed to exploring innovation and not just blindly kind of following trends, if you will. Yeah.
I feel like science is very like, it's like ever changing. So like, it's just
totally,
it's like not constant where you can go to school and like, this is what it is. And then it's final. Like it's always changing. So like your education is always evolving. Maybe that's why school is so long. I don't know like how it is. I mean, I never studied science, but like for me, it seems so like big and like, it's not a constant really. Like it's just, and it, like you said, the innovations, everything is always just
changing.
like,
you know what, that should be the spirit of science is, right? Like taking all the information that we have to date and making the best decisions based off of what we know now. That's not to say that, we're not going to learn new things in the future and be like, oh, something else is actually going to work better.
Yeah.
We weren't wrong in the past. It's just keeping updated, I think, is important.
And always curious, like you said, always curious about where, like knowing where we are now, but where we can go.
Yeah.
And the discoveries that come with that. That's like I find that very interesting. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, we talked about biophysics, but genomics, what is
Genomics.
that?
Okay. So here's the next skip hop, right, in the story. So then at the time I was like, okay, proteins, great. I understand a lot about proteins now that I've, completed my program. And then at the time I was still interested in staying in research. I was maybe looking at a career in pharma, trying to explore different avenues there. At the time, it was sort of early 2010s. And this was when Illumina next generation sequencing really came to the fore. And that's where genomics actually came into the story for me was, it took us 10 years to sequence the first human genome. That's a really long time for scientists to kind of sit there and actually piece what that code looked like. But with next generation sequencing, they're able to reduce that time to 2 days.
Oh, wow.
And so that was like a seismic shift, if you will, within what, the scientific community in the pace at which we're able to have new discoveries. So I thought, okay, you know what? This is really, really interesting. I want to know and learn and understand about this next new thing. So that's where I got connected with a professor at UBC. And so I moved back to Vancouver, because that's where I'm from. And I started working there and kind of managing, drug screening, did a little bit of sequencing, and really did all sorts of projects within the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences at UBC.
Okay, so you're like
Yeah.
really a scientist here.
Well, and I think that's something that I actually want to take this opportunity to share, is that like science shouldn't be inaccessible to people. There's the people with the training, but then there's also, with curiosity, you can really teach yourself to learn about things if you talk to the right people, if
Yeah.
you're looking at the right resources, and you really start to spend time with it, you'll get a sense of really how to have that scientific like methodology and thought. And it shouldn't be exclusionary.
No,
Right.
absolutely not. You're absolutely right with that.
So I want to know, like, all of this scientific training that you did, how did it shape the way you now, like, because you then moved into skincare formulas, right?
Yes.
Where did that bridge happen? Like, when did that happen? How did you go from biophysics to genomics to then this?
Yeah, I mean, it's, a very different kind
Absolutely.
of process, right? It's sort of not a straight route. But how I got into skincare was, well, was always interested in skincare. It was something that as a woman and, I was interested in. And so at the time, early 2010s, again, there was a lot of talk about vitamin C, L-ascorbic acid, just in the general sort of consumer awareness, right? People were starting to talk about this ingredient. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I don't really want to know what people are like saying on websites. And, I really wanted to see what science had to say about it. And so I went into PubMed, which is a resource that, clinicians and researchers will know, but basically it's a database where all the scientific literature, medical literature lives. Okay. And so I was like, okay, PubMed, tell me about L-ascorbic acid. So I typed in L-ascorbic acid, skin, topical, and then dove into that rabbit hole. And that's where I discovered Dr. Sheldon Pinnell. Actually, I had no understanding, or I didn't know about SkinCeuticals and CE Frolic and all of that. So I actually came about being interested in it from that angle. I discovered Dr. Sheldon Pinnell and topical antioxidants in PubMed.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So that's where, it was like, when you're looking at a research paper, it always should tell a story. And the way that Dr. Pinnell was able to assemble, his data into a way that told a logical story to someone who was looking at it from a scientific perspective really changed my mind about like, prior to that, I thought, well, it's just claims and I don't know, because in my personal experience, I would probably get mediocre results at best of what I thought I was going to get from my skincare, right? And so I thought, but going through that route, actually going through PubMed, seeing publications on it really allowed me to see like, oh, people are actually doing this in what I think is the right way of asking the right question.
Let's talk about hydration, because dryness and dehydration are not the same thing. You can slather on a moisturizer and still feel tight, dull, or flaky. And that means that your skin is dehydrated, lacking water, not oil. Hydrinity's restorative HA serum uses medical grade hyaluronic acid and regenerative peptides to deeply hydrate at a cellular level and repair the barrier from within. The glow, the plumpness, and the bounce, it works fast and our clients get hooked. If your skin drinks this up in seconds, it needed it. Use code SKINTALKS15 at bskinenvie.ca, spelled BSKINENVIE.ca for 15% off your first order. Yeah, so with that, I wanted to know, what is the biggest misconception about scientific skincare in your opinion?
I mean, there's so many. I
know,
think,
but
Yeah, I feel like there's more and more.
I think topical antioxidants is a huge topic for me.
It is, yeah.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions around vitamin C, L-ascorbic acid. I think the main thing that, occupies a lot of my mind space is people's perception that visible oxidation means that something is not working. So from an analytical chemistry perspective, if I think back to, my analytical chemistry days, the difference between an A and a B is parts per million of when you're doing your analyses and assessments of a formula or a solution. And something like vitamin C, when it goes to the end oxidation product, is actually deeply, deeply colored. So you actually need very few molecules to have turned to that oxidated end product for the whole solution to have a visible color change. So to me, I think there's a lot of education that we've had to do and information sharing in that to say, well, okay, there's the visual cue that something is changing, but we also have the clinical data at the back end of it to actually support that it's still working as an active antioxidant. So that's one thing. Like for example,
I wanted to ask you. So
Yeah.
you're saying because a lot of people will ask typically when a vitamin C oxidizes, it turns like a dark yellow to a brownish
dark,
color,
yeah.
right? And they think it's no longer good. So you're saying that scientifically speaking, that's inaccurate?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, the evidence that we do have
Okay.
is that, and this was a study that we just published in this year, looking at trying to address that problem, trying to address that question, right? We've always thought that, the change is not that much. It is active, but now we have the publication to say, what we've aged CE ferulic. I'm sorry, I'm just naming names.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Okay.
fine.
No.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Aged CE ferulic for 6, 12, and up to 36 months, which is 3 years.
After opening.
Yeah, and you see the visible color change
Yeah.
from light yellow to orange to kind of like a brown.
Yeah.
Okay. And what Dr. Velaki, who is like the free radical antioxidant researcher, did was that he took all of those samples and then he showed that even at the deepest color, aged up to 3 years, that CE ferulic was still able to protect the skin against UV damage and protect filaggrin, which is an important barrier protein, and also protect collagen 1, right? So, I mean, we had an inkling and an understanding that, yes, it's still effective, but now it's like we have the actual research to say not only is it working, but it's actually specifically working to protect all of these components of your cell.
Which is the intention.
Which is the intention of
Right.
antioxidants. So the other thing that I wanted to use this platform to talk about
Please don't.
Go for it. Go for it.
is actually there are, so I mentioned biomarkers. So that's just like signals in the cell of change or no change. Okay, so when we're talking about antioxidants, its main purpose should be to prevent damage by basically neutralizing free radicals and stopping the free radical cascade. That's just, when you're out in the sun, when you're exposed to pollution, there are all these free radicals that just kind of damage all these components and it leads to accelerated skin aging. That's why in aesthetics, we're concerned about really protecting skin health. But if you step back and take a broader view, it's really about skin health in general, not just, the more beautiful, better skin quality is just a nice byproduct of that. But really the initial ultimate goal is to prevent skin damage. So when you take it in that view and, you're asking your antioxidant formulation to act as an antioxidant formulation, it's not easy to assess whether antioxidants are truly working as antioxidants unless you assess it in a lab and have those parameters. The end user, the patient will see in their bathroom mirrors is that, they'll begin to see improvement in discoloration. And they'll think that their formulation is working as an antioxidant. But I just want to, bring into the conversation that there are a lot of antioxidant or vitamin C serums out there that actually, of course, have the vitamin C component, but they also have discoloration actives.
Okay.
So things that reduce melanogenesis. So to me, that isn't the best way to assess whether you have the best antioxidant formulation.
Because you're adding like other things in there.
You're disguising. You're like working on the melanin part and reducing, hyperpigmentation, which is great, but you have no visibility on the upstream. Is it actually still stopping your collagen from breaking down, the
Absolutely.
damage to your skin? So we don't know that. And unless you're, working with brands that do have that sort of evidence, that do invest in those studies, then, it's kind of a wild guess.
Yeah. And obviously we know that in the industry, there's vitamin C is the gold standard to a certain degree. And every brand has a vitamin C, but basically not all vitamin Cs are equal.
Not every vitamin C are equal.
Exactly.
And then to also bring in the vitamin C conversation, actually, I think it's important to recognize that it's important, but it can't stand alone.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you have to actually consider what are the other synergistic antioxidants there? Like, for example, do you have other antioxidants that kind of work with to stabilize the vitamin C, to regenerate it? Because actually there are other sort of what we consider sacrificial antioxidants that their sole purpose is to regenerate vitamin C. So for example, in CE ferulic, it's the ferulic acid that is there that is actually in the bottle and kind of regenerating vitamin C as to kind of contributing to its stability.
Interesting.
It is so interesting.
That now that you like really got into the vitamin C and you were like shocked at the studies that you found in PubMed, like how did your perception of altogether skincare and aesthetics change once you were actually in the industry? Like, did you see other ingredients and were like, oh wow, I also thought that maybe it was working, but not really. But then you saw these publications and you saw the science behind it and you were like, oh wow, it also is a crazy ingredient type thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think what surprised me the most when I started kind of getting into this was that there's actually a lot of science already that exists.
Yeah.
And, there are people doing it the right way that are invested in doing it the right way to actually formulate and prove that the products are working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It kind of just takes you into like, and then you found this like true love for skincare and aesthetics, right? And you just became obsessed with it, which is I think why we're also obsessed with it.
We are obsessed
and we're not
with
even
it.
really, I mean like I read clinical studies sometimes, but I'm not like, nor do I understand all of it either. So I'll just say that. But it is something that we're so passionate about when you see the results.
We're very passionate about it. And we talk about it all the time. We talk about, not all products are equal and, getting into scientific skincare is very different than getting into mainstream skincare. Even though mainstream skincare has its place and your skin might feel good when you put products on initially, but what is it actually doing?
Right.
And where is the corrective component? And that's kind of where we're very passionate about where science meets skincare, and innovation.
And to me, I think, getting the products right really aligns with my core values of, sustainability and environmentalism in a way, right? Because then if you're formulating the correct products, helping people put together the right routines for them, they don't need to feel like they need a 12-step skincare routine, really investing all of this time and money and resources into something that still might not be optimized. And to me, that's a streamlining of, okay, well, you just need a few key things that's really going to help you get to your goals. And then maybe, part of this conversation today is also remaining open to the idea of aesthetic procedures as well. That was a
100%.
big
Yeah.
realization for me as well, right?
Yeah. We want to get into that for sure. But I do want to know, like we always say on our end, like you need, because it is so overwhelming. I think also in today's day and age, like everybody's so excited about like the newest trends and the newest products coming out. And it's like, oh, I need this, this, and this, and this. So you have that 12-step routine, which we don't really promote in a way.
No.
So we always say like you need 4 steps. It's a cleanser, it's a vitamin C, it's a moisturizer, and it's SPF. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be the foundation and
the
basis,
Yeah.
right? The ABCs of skincare is your retinoids when and where possible. B, your sunblock or sunscreen, and then your vitamin C or antioxidants, right? And I always like to remind people, so if you have one thing to take away from today's session, it's use your sunscreen daily.
Thank you.
Really, seriously.
Lot of
And there's
people
so
in the
many
back.
people out there that are saying that's just bogus and, you know,
There's some people like
they're against sunscreen.
they don't
I don't
actually
believe in it.
sunscreen, or they think that it's worse for you. I actually saw this reel and I saw something about how sunscreen actually could be more damaging. And I was just like, no comment.
There's so
but-
much
I mean,
information.
Yeah, and I think what we can see from the sort of through studies and evidence is that we see, you know, even sunscreen sometimes has a baseline effect on clinical studies. So when you enroll your study subjects into clinical studies and you tell them, okay, well, use the basic routine, including sunscreen, and then use this test product, including sunscreen, and you wanted to see the difference in the skin quality with your test product. But oftentimes you'll actually see the cohort that was put on sunscreen, they actually have an improvement as well in their skin quality. And so that's where you need that proper scientific quality control, right? Like your experimental control. So that's where it's really important to, you know, when brands and formulators are doing these clinical studies, to actually have control so that they know, okay, well, this is the baseline, and then this is what the actual true measurable effect of the new formula that I'm testing. But those people that are just enrolled into clinical studies, they're now people from just the general population that may or may not regularly use sunscreen, and they're put on a sunscreen containing regimen, and you do see a bump effect of, you know, improvement in all the skin quality parameters that we're assessing. So yes, sunscreen is critical.
There's 2 things that I want to ask you, because there's the first thing is about vitamin C. We were talking about that before. And I find that a lot of people say, well, I can't use vitamin C, I'm allergic, or like I break out from vitamin C. So what I see in the industry is that you have vitamin Cs for all different skin types. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting feature of our antioxidant portfolio, right? So of course you have CE ferulic, which, you know, was the original OG.
It is the OG. Absolutely,
like I
it's the
think in
OG.
the entire industry.
I know, yeah.
But then subsequently we realized that, you know, not everyone can tolerate or use vitamin E, for example.
Yeah.
And for example, myself, like I prefer Flortin CF because or Silymarin CF, where I run more oily combinations. So then it was a realization that we needed to have formulations that were formulated specifically for different skin types and skin concerns. So yeah, CE ferulic for normal to dry, Flortin CF for your clients and patients that are, you know, normal to really all different skin types, but concerned with discoloration because you have the component of the Flortin. And then Silymarin for your oily acne-prone patients.
I think that really helped a lot of
A lot of people.
Because
Because
also
not
for
everybody...
me, I do the Flortin CF because
me
I have melasma, discoloration. That's something that's where I would use, where I didn't love the CE ferulic as much because of, I feel like it was like a little bit more oilier, if that makes sense.
It's a little bit thicker in texture. I think that there is opportunity for people to maybe use CE ferulic, but in very, if they don't normally use CE ferulic, but they want to get, like, we have a lot of testing on CE ferulic post-procedure.
Yes.
Okay. So that's where
I've personally done it. So I know it's excellent.
So that's where, you know, that might be a unique specific use case for CE ferulic, where they could maybe, you know, get
post-procedure,
post-procedures,
or
some sort of like post-procedure support kit. And then after they're done that, then they go back to their normal antioxidant that they would use.
Okay, so the second part of my question is we often talk about, clinical studies, and clinical studies is also a marketing term that's used by a lot of brands. I've seen, I had one friend of mine send me a clinical study about a vitamin C, XYZ, and it was basically just a patient. It was basically, I think they just tested people within their organization.
Okay.
And it was a preferred. Did you like the smell? Did you like this? Did you like this? Did you like that? And it came out as the preferred, best rated, clinically studied vitamin C. And that's why everybody should buy it. But when I looked at it, it was just not at all an actual study.
Sure.
So can you just differentiate what it means to have a clinical study between a reviewed study, not a peer reviewed necessarily, because that's more with doctors and stuff like that. But the difference is what does it mean?
Well, and I think that's really what's confounding the space, right? And leading to the confusion is, everything's labeled clinical study. It's been clinically studied. Yeah. But from a, scientific perspective, you're really looking for certain things like, was there a proper testing and experimental control that, within the study? What's the methodology? Was there a washout period? So meaning, the subjects that are enrolled in your study, they're not on any actives for a certain amount of time before they get enrolled into your study. Is there standardization? I think that's the key. Is there standardization? Is there some reference point where we can bring everybody back to and say, okay, we want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges here. We can't be having these conversations where it's apples to oranges, because then we're just going in circles.
Not equal. Yeah.
Yeah, which is where I think it goes often.
Yeah, so I guess asking questions and curiosity component is applicable for everything. Really asking questions about what is the clinical study that you're reading and where does it come from?
Right.
And how valid is it? And is it marketing, or is it actually based on science?
Right. And are the before and afters that I'm being presented the best result that they saw in the entire cohort of people, or is it the average result? As a consumer, I would love to actually just see the average result, right? That's, just to manage expectations. And it's just more truthful kind of, well, this is the range that we saw. We're going to, this is the average that you might be able to expect. So that's one thing. And in order to get, more assurance and confidence in the results that you're seeing, you'd like to have more people. More people, the better. I know, in an ideal world, we have thousands of people enrolled in skincare, studies. We may get there one day. We might be pushed to get there one day. We're not there yet. But what, I would like to see is a good solid number of individuals where we can start to get a sense of the confidence that we have in the data that we see. Right. And so, from our perspective, it would be 30 to 50 people where you're really looking at a larger group of people. We want to see that we cover all Fitzpatrick skin types. Absolutely. So we see actually what can be expected in each individual kind of skin tone, and ethnic background is something else that we consider. So and then the other thing, as a scientist, I want to see biomarkers. I want to see what the cells are telling us, the living cells so for example, I know this sounds a little bit icky, but for CE Froelich, for example, it was applied to, I want to test it in real life living humans. So, a clinical study in humans on the face, and then they actually took skin samples from in front of the ear of people's faces and then looked at the biomarkers and the cellular changes. That's really where we're tying the science aspect into, okay, well, we're seeing these improvements, clinical improvements in front of the mirror. Can we have also the biochemical and sort of molecular evidence to back up the changes that we're seeing?
That's amazing.
I do
love
that.
That's serious. We're not.
That's what I mean, because it can be confusing for the average person who's listening.
I think it just becomes a marketing term in a lot of ways, right? A lot of things become marketing terms in today's day and age, which is why it's so good to like, we're debunking. I feel like this conversation is debunking a bunch of myths and like, just a bunch of things while we're going along.
Clarifying some things or things to look for when you're making a decision for yourself.
Yeah, because there's so much information all the time, and it's hard to, as a regular individual who doesn't know a lot about skincare or who's new to it, it's a lot of information to like get through and really find what's good for you. Right? Like we know it because we've been or especially you, like I've been in the industry for a while now, but like it's hard to decipher what's real and what's not.
For sure. And that's why, before coming into and participating in the industry, it was so confusing for me as a consumer. You're kind of just going off of the box and labels and trying to make a best guess. And then what you end up with is a bunch of products in your drawer that, is a waste of money and resources.
Well, that's the thing is that, we
time.
talk about it because, okay, so you're going to invest, $175 to $225 for a professional medical grade vitamin C, where you can buy vitamin C's in other areas for, $20 or,
Yeah.
And people are saying, okay, I've got my vitamin C. It only cost me $20. Why would I ever invest in a product that's, $200? And that's where, budget, of course, but also, if you're buying something over and over and over again, it becomes very costly if it's ineffective and you don't see the change or the results that you're looking for. And so it's costing us more money.
Right. And time really.
Time and patience too. And, delays in seeing that advancement in your skin for the health of your skin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you think of your skin as kind of your bank of collagen, you're really wanting to kind of preserve it.
Oh yeah. Save.
As early on as possible so that you end up with more, as you progress, right? As we go through life.
Yeah,
so
100%.
That's a point to consider. But and it's about, where do you want to invest, right? It is an investment, but it's, up to the individual to kind of have that assessment. But I want them to be given the right information. I don't want people to, think that they're getting a certain that they should expect a certain, amount of antioxidant protection or whatever from things that don't have proof that they do that.
Yeah.
But they have the name vitamin C.
Label reading. That's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
100%. Let's talk about acne, because it's not just a skin problem, it's an emotional one. And the worst part, most acne products are either too gentle to work or so harsh they destroy your barrier. Zeo Skin Health's complexion clearing program finds the balance. It targets oil, bacteria, and inflammation at the root while protecting the barrier and supporting healing. It was designed by dermatologists, and we've seen it change people's confidence and not just their skin. If you tried anything else and still aren't clear, start here. Use code SKINTALKS15 at bskinenvie.ca. That's BSKINENVIE.ca for 15% off your first order. I do want to switch gears. We did mention a little bit of medical aesthetics before, so I want to know, like, currently in today's day and age, like, what excites you the most in terms of like procedures and medical devices?
I think it's about general awareness of that this should be considered. That, there's there's preconceived notions of, cost and, different things. But I think with aesthetic procedures, you're really going to be able to see changes in the skin in a much shortened time and faster to get, it shortens your time to your skincare goals is what I like to think. And it really reduces, like, oh, I just need a new product or I need that 12-step. It's like, no, make sure you're using the right products for you. And then if you want to consider XYZ procedure, then consider adding that as a more holistic sort of support.
Yeah. We always say that, like, we compare it, like, in treatments and at homes often to dentists. Like, you're brushing your teeth at home every single day and you're seeing the dentist every 6 months, or you're going to the gym and you're eating healthy at home. It's kind of the same thing. Like we have a good routine at home, but you do want to go into treatment and like boost with like a microneedling treatment or like a laser, depending on your skin concern. And that sort of is like the perfect formula for us when we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, we talk about it all the
because
time.
that's where you're going to see the best results. Obviously, you'll see results if you're just doing your perfect routine at home.
Right.
But if you want to like boost it and accelerate it, we always say like go to your medical spa and like get a treatment, and then you're just going to see your
Even
results.
just facials in themselves, they help to, bring the skin back to homeostasis, reduce inflammation.
Absolutely.
And that's very preventative in itself,
Yeah,
right? But people,
totally.
they just, I guess what I feel is that people don't think about doing those things because their skin budget for reasons, or their skin doesn't look like it needs it yet. When you're in your 20s, 30s and stuff. And all of a sudden they wake up one day and they're like, oh my God, I need to do something. My skin doesn't look good. I don't feel radiant. My pores are enlarged. I've got premature aging of the skin, fine lines and wrinkles. I'm starting to see stuff on my skin. And then they panic and they start to come.
Right.
So we try to build this messaging into everything that we talk about doing it along the way. You don't have to do it, 10 times a year, but at least deep cleansing, treating your concerns along the way, using good products at home, and that combined analogy of dentist and brushing your teeth morning and evening will take you into your older years of life with a healthier skin. Your collagen will be more...
You'll have more. You still have a lot in your
More
bank.
abundant.
More abundant.
Yes.
You'll have a healthier complexion. You'll feel better in your skin, and always about the skin health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, when we think back to like, what is the best source of growth factors? It's yourself.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right. So it's, I know that there's, a lot of innovation that's happening in the topical space. And, we really want to see the science to back up those formulations. But at the same time, your skin is the best source. Your own skin is the best source of growth factors and reparative enzymes and everything that you want to be working. And so, exploring the controlled damage that you get from aesthetic procedures really should be considered.
I agree.
I want to know, what do you think the beauty industry will look like in 10 years? Is it going to be more evidence-based beauty, like evidence-based skincare, or like where do you see it going in the future?
I mean, I think, well, I think it's already here. The push for, standardization, for proof, evidence-based skincare. I think we're already here. And then I think really it's just a push from patients and consumers of all of us in this industry to still keep marching in that direction of providing more evidence, providing more innovation in a way that is evidence-based.
Yeah. Especially in a world filled with trends.
Yeah.
And...
Well, I want to go off on that. So like, let's say for those who are listening who are, I guess influenced by the trends and like maybe don't know where to go in terms of looking for evidence-based skincare, because like the marketing world is kind of taken over that term.
And all social media in general is
Yeah.
taken
So
over.
like how in the most basic way, like, can you provide somebody with, I guess, like help? Like, how do I find good skincare? What's the best way, or can you give a step?
What's the best way to start?
Yeah.
If you're
for
new.
somebody who's new.
For someone who's new, I mean, I think if possible, talk to a professional. So
Professional means esthetician.
people who have been in the industry, worked with skin, have inside, outside knowledge of the skin. Your local, your esthetician, your laser tech or skincare consultant, or your physician, if you can have access to your derm, your GP, definitely start getting your information from those people that really know your skin the best.
And I do want to say one thing though, because, and it's just an observation, but I find that people will tend to go to a doctor for their skin because they have a problem, let's say acne or rosacea, something more important. And so being a dermatologist But I find when we see a lot of these people coming into our clinic, and we also see a lot of people come to our virtual consultations because we do them for people across Canada. And they'll say, well, my dermatologist recommended me to use this for my dermatitis, my perioral dermatitis. But it burns my skin and blah, 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 blah. So I find that when you go to that space, you get a product that treats the condition that is apparent on the surface, but it's not dealing with the health of the skin and, you know, the skin barrier and the homeostasis of the skin. So people find themselves in worse positions after visiting a dermatologist because they're not using proper skincare at home.
I think it's about, encouraging people to explore like their points of care and putting together something that works for them over the long term.
Yeah.
So if it's a matter of, going and getting a prescription for something, treating the condition, but then also understanding that actually this needs to be managed
Complemented
over time. And so it's then, adding to that that space of, okay, well, I have it mostly controlled with prescription. And then what other options do I have access to that can make me more comfortable, support me better.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I did a virtual consultation with somebody who went to a dermatologist and got a prescription for acne. But if you would have seen her skin, I mean, her acne was gone, but she was peeling, she was red, she was irritated. And I asked her, what else are you using right now to complement this particular prescription? She's like, nothing, because that's what my dermatologist told me that's all I should be using. And that's where I find there's this, going to an esthetician, somebody who actually looks at your skin underneath a loop, or a laser technician, like you said, and looks at the skin and understands how to bring the skin into its optimal health, not just treat it from a superficial level, is so important.
Or have better transition, I guess, if you will, between one point of care and the next, because like there's going to be other underlying things. Your skin is going to change over time. So for all of those reasons, it should be considered like an ongoing thing.
Yeah, not just one thing.
Not just one thing and done. So I encourage people to check in with their skin, check in with the different points of professional care, whether it be your dermatologist, your GP, your esthetician. And so all of those people are going to help you and support you, but you need to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Like
I think asking the questions is important.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's very intense. We know a lot of people who suffer from acne who use one product and then their skin's like raw after.
Well, it's just that their skin barrier is so compromised.
Better support.
Right.
You know?
I find the skin barrier gets compromised and then it can make it worse.
Well, I mean, I think we all remember from the, 90s,
talk about.
the buy on TV.
Yes, yes. We're not going to talk about the
kids these
brand.
We're not gonna, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. That was, part of my skincare experience, right? And that was part of what wrecked my skin barrier. And it contributed to other issues. And that's kind of part of the reason why I was like, I don't know about this,
Crazy.
Works in the beginning,
what
but
we're
then
being sold, right? So
being sold dreams, and in reality, bring it to basics, 4 steps, complement with other things, and you can turn your skin around. I've seen it done many, many times. Yeah.
I love this episode. This was like really amazing.
Yeah.
We would love to finish off with some like rapid fire questions with you.
Okay.
They're going to be 3 of them. So like whatever comes to your mind first.
Okay.
What's something you're still curious about?
What is something I'm still curious about? I mean, so many things. I think that is the fun of being in this space, and being a contributor in this space, is that there's just so much yet to be discovered. At the same time, I think what I'm excited about is we already know so much, right, about the foundations and the basics. And to get everybody to that baseline, I think is another exciting thing, kind of like broadening the scope of care and, bringing more people into the fold of proper skincare.
Right.
I love it.
I love that.
It.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence. Great science is...
great science can be bottled.
That's a good one.
I love
That's a
it.
good one.
And now we're going to bring it back. What's one thing you wish more people understood about skincare and beauty?
What's one thing? I wish that they understood that despite the sort of confusing clouding space, there are a lot of us that are working in the industry that are trying to, make sure that we're marching forward in an evidence-based way, that we are unrelenting in our pursuit of really providing the best care for patients and consumers. That's the message that, I really want to send out to people is I think there's preconceived notions and misunderstanding that like we're just all here to sell skincare and sell things. But really it's about being passionate about actually sharing the knowledge that we have.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is so fun.
Good, we're glad.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Skin Talks.
If this episode inspired you, taught you something new, or just made you feel seen, please share with someone you love. And if you believe in thoughtful and empowering conversations that help you make better choices for yourself around your beauty and wellness, please rate and review the show. It helps us to grow our community, and we deeply appreciate it. Because this isn't just about skin.
It's about claiming your beauty, feeling strong, informed, and at home in yourself.
See you next week.